Welcome to Secrets from the Saddle podcast. I'm Sylvie D'Aoust, your host, fellow cyclist, bike club founder, cycling coach, bike race junkie, just truly super passionate about cycling. My journey with cycling started 20 years ago when I opened a spin studio, started a women's race team, and founded a women's only cycling club called Cycle Fit Chicks. I'm super thrilled to reveal all aspects that make the world of cycling operate. I'm so excited to be able to bring you interesting people from around the world, pro cyclists, recreational cyclists, coaches, event organizers, bike shop owners, everything and everyone you need to know or ever wondered about when it comes to cycling. I know you'll enjoy this episode. All right, what's up, everyone? I hope you are enjoying the spring as much as I am, well, when the sun is out. But we have an amazing episode coming up today. And if you are familiar with Priority Bicycles, we are going to be talking with Connor Swegle, who is one of the part owners of the company. Now, they're committed to making the best bicycles in the world, the e-bikes. These are the first guys that I'm talking to about e-bikes, which is really exciting. I've been trying to find someone to talk about e-bikes because they are just one of the up and coming styles of biking. Now, I would love to know if you have an e-bike and what kind of terrain you're using it on. Okay, so make sure that you go to our YouTube channel. You can check this one out because we've got Connor in his bike shop and he's got some really nice bikes he's going to show us. And also, I would just love to know on YouTube. So let's get back to them. Their strategy is simple, high quality parts, an efficient supply line, low overhead, and an online business model. No fancy stores, but you can find them in New York. No gimmicky bells and whistles, no frills, but just high quality. And you're going to hear more about it. So here's how they got started. And obviously with Connor, he's going to be telling you more about it. So they started with KICKSTARTER, and you might be familiar with them. KICKSTARTER is a company where you can go and promote your product and get financial backing from all sorts of people, with just like a ton of people can put money into it. So it's really easier than trying to find one person to back your product. So on July 15th, 2014, Priority Bicycles launched on KICKSTARTER, opting for a crowdfunding approach with a goal of raising $30,000 to fund the first shipment of what would later be called the Priority Classic. Now, the goal was hit within a few hours, people, and over the course of a 30-day campaign, Priority Bicycles raised over $500,000. That is so amazing. This campaign was the first of 3 fully funded KICKSTARTER campaigns, all of which delivered on time to all their backers, which were the people who paid into it. Priority now has numerous bicycle models, ships thousands of bicycles around the world, and features partnerships with premium resorts, educational institutions, and top-rated tours in major U.S. cities and locations spanning the globe. So I bet you're super excited to hear more about their company from Connor. Let's get to it. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Secrets from the Saddle, All Things Cycling podcast with your host, Sylvie D'Aoust. And we have Connor Swegle, who is in New York City. Now, as I mentioned before in the little intro that I did for them, Connor and Dave are the owners of Priority Bikes. And we have the pleasure of having Connor here to share the story of how it all got started through Kickstart and through their vision. So I'm super excited to have you, Connor, here to share your bike shop with us and to share it with other people.
Awesome.
So how did you guys get in? Oh, did I say something wrong?
I'm sorry. No, you didn't. A bike in the background that is not ours. And I was like, I need to pull this thing. Yeah. And so we were storing this here because, sorry, I'm glad we're not live. Um,
Well, we are
the
now.
backstory there is, are we live? Oh, I'm so sorry. We have a
That's
rider.
okay.
We have somebody associated with our team. Doesn't a family member can't ride a regular pedal bike, so we have a trike here, and it's not ours. So I was getting it out of frame. So sorry for that, but I'm here.
But you do take care of other types of bikes.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we definitely have a smattering of bicycles that are not priority bicycles, but I figured for this, I would take it out of this wonderful priority bicycles frame behind me. So
It
sorry
is
about that.
beautiful. It is beautiful. So how did
Yeah,
you guys get into cycling? How did you get into cycling? And how did priority bikes come together?
for sure. Yeah. So, Dave and I have actually been friends for a long time. We met in the dorms freshman year.
Oh, I
And the
love this
story
story.
goes, yeah, the story
Yeah.
goes that I had a motorcycle and he had seen me around like in the dorm with it. And he walks up to me one day and he's like, hey, comes just into my dorm. You know, in college, you just leave your doors open.
Yeah.
And so, a door was open and he just walks in and he goes, hey, I just bought a motorcycle, but I couldn't afford a helmet. Do you have a helmet I could borrow? And I remember thinking, like in college, like you don't have any money for anything anyway. So the fact that you would buy a motorcycle and not have a helmet was totally believable.
Yeah.
It was just that like a full face helmet felt very intimate for someone that you don't know
Yeah,
to let them
right.
borrow it. But I was just struck with like the boldness of this question. It must be the right question to ask, so I'll answer it. And I was like, sure, I have another helmet. Do you want to borrow it? So he borrowed my helmet for 4 or 6 weeks. I think it was like the beginning or the end of freshman year. And then at the end of freshman year, we're living in the dorm. He's like, hey, here's your helmet. Like, if I can do any favor to repay you, let me know. And I ran track at UC Santa Barbara. So I was a Division I pole vaulter. And I was going to stay in the summer to train. And I jokingly said, hey, if you could give me a job. And he said, sure, I'm actually working at this company that does software for bike shops. Come on over there, you can do data entry. And so all of a sudden, like we went from not really knowing each other to him being inside of a full face helmet that I also had worn, to us then working together. We had the same major. We both studied business economics at UC Santa Barbara. So we actually had the same classes together. And then after college, we became good friends. And then after college, we actually moved down to LA the day after graduation. And then he went to work at Giant Bicycles. Then I worked in entertainment marketing. And so we've stayed in touch ever since. So like from there, Dave went from working in the cycling industry, actually had worked on a big software project there. So then actually went over to the software side of things, became a software executive. And I was in entertainment branding. And then we circle back over 10 years later one day, and Dave says to me, hey, I quit my job. And I was like, congratulations, because he was overworked. And he said, hey, I want to get back into bikes, and I've always known that that's his passion. And he's like, I've had this concept for just like a bike that just like, you don't have to like fix up. Cause like anytime I go riding with friends, like I always got to fix something before we go ride. And like, I just want to get on a bike and go. And so like, I'm out there like fixing a flat or doing a gear adjustment or doing a brake adjustment. He's like, I want to make a bike that doesn't do that. And I was like, well, cool. I'm very dissatisfied in my job. Let me help you out. So I jump in and I start making, decks and logos and just looking at colors of bikes and like how we could kind of go about that. And then just sort of communication strategies of like, how do you launch a bike in a customer direct world for something like this? And how do we like create some messaging around it? So after a few months of that, it was like, all right, let's just formalize this. And so Dave and I formally started working together. And that was a little bit after we had done what you had mentioned, this Kickstarter launch.
Yeah.
And to sort of talk about the Kickstarter launch, which was really exciting. So I think we caught this lightning in a bottle time of Kickstarter, where you could still get like really big coverage from a press perspective and eyeballs on inventions through Kickstarter. It's gotten a little bit more challenging with crowdfunding, because I think there's been different approaches to crowdfunding, where you'll have a big company using crowdfunding and it feels disingenuous, or you've had just a lot of people who have invented things that were very popular, maybe got coverage even in like, traditional news, whether that's 24-hour cycle or, evening news around these like really interesting products that ultimately never delivered. Well, we delivered. And at the time, I believe we were the biggest bicycle campaign that had ever launched. So we launched our Priority Classic, which is the first invention of this 3-speed everyday cruiser. And
Nice.
our goal was to raise 30,000, and we raised over 565,000. It was over 1,500 bikes. And I think obviously that in itself is exciting. But the biggest thing was that this idea of an independent, customer focused, low maintenance bicycle brand, like that there was something in there that felt like, okay, this is something that like, obviously we believed it had legs, but it was a proof point pretty quickly that the concept had legs.
Nice. So are they all cruiser type bikes, or what is in your fleet of
Yeah.
bikes?
So it's interesting. When the company first launched 9 years ago, the idea was like this was like going to be it. There was this a step through model, and the idea is you sell a bunch of those, and you keep the company really small. And a few things that the company was built on was this high quality, low maintenance concept.
Mm-hmm.
Best in class pricing was the biggest thing. We wanted to say, like, for the feature set, you're not going to find a bike for the same price or cheaper anywhere for what we sell. And then great customer service. So we have 365-day a year customer service that we do in-house. So you can get communication from a team member 365 days a year. We built on that concept. We live on that concept. As far as the product development, it's been interesting because it's really come organically. So because we're doing our own customer service 365 days a year, we hear a lot from different people. So again, early on, we thought, cool, we're going to have this classic. It's going to be great. We had made some upgrades we had the Gates carbon drive belt on the bike, which we were really proud of. We made a few tweaks to it, but we felt like we just had this really high quality product. We're selling at a great price, feel really good about it. Well, somebody emails in and says, hey, or we see a post on Facebook and they're like, hey, I really love this bike, but like, and I ride it at the beach because of the belt drive, it's not rusting. So it's holding up better than any other beach bike I've had. But I really like, the fit and feel of my beach cruiser. And Dave and I, like, we're California people. We went to UCSB. We rode beach cruisers for 4 years every single day. We're like, yeah, it's not a beach cruiser. So it's like, well, let's make a beach cruiser. So we designed the Coast, our beach cruiser. And then we'd have somebody write in and say, I've been commuting on this bike 8 or 9 miles each way, and the 3-speed isn't enough for me. And we're like, yeah, it wasn't designed as a 9-mile commuter bike. So we're like, let's make a commuter bike. So we initially created it was called the 8 at the time, which was an 8-speed Alpine commuter bike. It has now become our Continuum. So we created our Continuum commuter. And then our kids, like Dave had one when we first launched. The company had his first son, Jake, and he was having his second. And it was like, well, we can't be riding other people's bikes. So it's like, we got to make kids bikes. So we made kids bikes. And then
the Strider.
Yeah. And then the really interesting thing so it's like we start to see these legs naturally branch out in terms of like the commuter and then the beach and then kids bikes. And then the interesting thing in the last few years, and this was even with the help of one of our good friends, Ryan Van Tuzer, who's a big content creator, is that this promise of low maintenance started to work in a really interesting all road and even adventure perspective.
Okay.
So we have everything from a single speed retro mountain bike that's kind of inspired by a clunker that's just like a great like thumper N+1 in town village bike, fun trail riding bike, grocery getter. Our Apollo, which is a drop bar gravel bike. And then our 600, which is an all-road pinion model. And then we have our 600X, which is a pinion model that is suited for bike packing, like all trail bike packing. And so that has become this almost like with the Gates carbon drive belt, this ride, rinse, and repeat part of our business that's been very interesting.
Okay, Connor. Now, I am just going to have to ask you, can you show us some of those bikes? Like,
It,
how many of them do you have around you? Like,
you have to
I'm interested in
wait
like the
45
drop
seconds.
bar mountain bike.
Let me see.
And
I'll give me 35 seconds and I'll
all right,
grab one or
yeah,
two.
go
One or
grab
two.
some.
All
Go
right.
grab
You
some.
have to fill. You have to fill.
I will. I'll make a joke or something. All right, so this is super exciting because I don't know about you, like when he was talking about those bikes, and you can see some of them, like about 2.5 bikes on the wall. I was just like, man, it would be super cool to see because they're belt driven. And I'm gonna ask him to um bring, like, just give us a up close look at the belt drive, because you can see it right there on the bike that he has in his video. So if you guys are still listening, you might want to flip over to YouTube and catch this online, because um whenever somebody, like when I interview like a bike shop owner like this, um and they start talking about their products, especially if they're proprietary like this, Priority Bikes, they have their own products. I love to see. I'm a total visual person, and especially since it's a cool, different, like the belt driven, it's not chain driven. I think that is a cool concept too, and I would love to get an up and close look at it. Wouldn't you? All right, I see he's coming through. He's coming through with some bike. Keep bringing them in.
Able to quickly grab one that was the most easily accessible, but this is our 600X. So this is our pinion bike packing bike.
Okay.
As I kind of work through. So I don't know. Have you ever ridden? Have you
get rid of all the chairs?
Slamming stuff out of the way. But you can see we've got our pinion gearbox in here,
Okay.
which is really exciting.
Can
So
you flip it around, Connor, so we can? Because I was talking about the belt. I think that is a really, really interesting, because I have seen it on one other bike. I don't know where, but it is super cool.
yeah. So no rust, no grease.
Yeah.
And then you don't have your drop of your derailleur back there. So for adventure riding, this is great. And this bike was really, like I said, it was kind of perfected in partnership with our buddy Ryan. And I mean, he's a tremendous athlete, but he's done the Great Divide, he's done Baja, he's done the Colorado Trail. So this was really spec built for somebody who was a really great rider, is a really great rider, but not necessarily somebody who's mechanically focused. So, and you're not in a position when you're out on a ride to necessarily wrench on your bike. You're not bringing a bunch of tools with you. So this is one of our models that's probably like I'd say our peak example of what we're doing in the adventure world.
So, but that is just one gear. You said that's like a single speed.
No, this one isn't.
How
this
does
has
it
a
work?
pinion gearbox. Yeah,
Okay,
so
you got to talk about that. Let's bring it back up on the table.
I'm going to be out of breath. I'm going to be exhausted. This is more work.
No, but
more work than I had planned.
I know, but I think this is really cool for our listeners and also for you to really showcase this, because I'm like, what? And I'm sure everybody's like, what? Okay, so like I mentioned, everybody, if you're still listening, you might want to flip over to YouTube so you can get a good visual of this bike and how they've worked the gears. All right, take it away, Connor.
Yeah, so there's a pinion gearbox in here, and years ago we were working with some of our friends at Gates, and one of our main contacts said, "Hey, I know you guys are really into this low maintenance thing. You got to check out Pinion." And Pinion, this is from two former Porsche transmission engineers, and they had a really simple idea, which was like, you wouldn't ever put a derailleur onto a car that's built for hundreds of thousands of kilometers of riding. So why would you ever do that on a bicycle? So they worked for years to protect. You're right. It's like, it's totally like it's an intuitive promise. And so they worked on perfecting this. And so this has a massive 600% gear range. It's all sealed So, for all weather, all conditions, I mean, you can submerge it. The other thing that's really great about it is it sits in the center of the bike. So you're carrying the weight in the center of the bike as opposed to the back of it. So it makes it really well balanced when you ride. And it's just a completely low maintenance gearbox. And so it's something that's just really exciting for certainly for adventure riders. We actually had first put it on our 600, which was a more of like a daily commuter / all road bicycle, just for the idea that like you go and ride your bike and you just hose it down and you're good to go.
Yeah. So now I think I've seen something like this, but the gearing was more on the back hub. Am I correct? Is
Yeah.
something
So
like that?
like
But
what you'll
yours
see
is in the
here,
yeah.
well, on the 600 with the pinion. So
Yeah.
our 600 and our 600X utilize the pinion. On, for example, here we have a 3-speed internally geared hub. So when you run belt, you have an internally geared hub, whether it's a gearbox or whether it's in the back, because you don't, you can't have the belt. The belt needs to stay in line, and so you can't have it slide up and down. So you use internally geared hubs. So for example, here we have our a 3-speed on our Continuum. We use an Enviolo rear hub, so that's all weather sealed. And has a 380% gear range, and then
Okay, what does that mean? Like,
I mean,
how do you change gears in the back? Like, I'm totally, I'm like, yes, just consider me a newbie when it comes to this, because I'm like,
and trust me, I am not the person to get into the specifics of percentages in gear range and gear
okay, well,
inches.
forget about percentages, but how does the gearing work inside? Because you got one belt that doesn't move, as we're always like, we got the gear ranges up, down with the derailleur, but how does the internal gears work?
Each of them are a little bit different, meaning that like the pinion works differently than the Enviolo works differently than what you'll see like in the Nexus or the Alphines. And again, I'm not your person to sort of dig into like the technicals of the internals of hubs. But they're certainly for us, like they're purpose driven. We use them relevant to what we find to be the best use case. So, for the pinion, again, like if you have this idea of ride, rinse, and repeat, you just want something that's sealed. You know that you need this wide gear range.
Yeah.
The pinion can deliver on that. But if you put that on a commuter bike, on a daily commuter bike, you're probably using too big of a hammer for too small of a nail. And so, unless you just feel like spending more than you need to. And then obviously when you get down to some of the more recreational stuff, you need, 3 speeds is perfect for that. And so, it's really like we've selected the hubs based on what we see is ultimately like what's going to be the best usage for the widest range of people who are getting that bike. So we have an Alphine 11-speed internally geared hub on our Apollo, which is our drop bar. That's our drop bar gravel bike.
Oh, talk to me about gravel, because I'm heading to Unbound. And
Nice.
I'm kind of like hesitant over my current bike. I hate to say it, but because listen for it, wait for it. The front derailleur stopped working when I was racing at Barry-Roubaix, and I'm like, oh God, like, so when you're talking about this, like the maintenance part, you're just like, ugh. And the worst thing is to have like a mechanical. I can deal with certain mechanicals, but when it comes to stuff shifting, I can deal with tires and tubes and all those things. But when it comes to that, I'm just like, when you're talking about internal and not having to worry about stuff like that, I'm just like, oh my gosh, wouldn't that be fabulous? So let's talk about gravel. Tell us about gravel, because that's coming in, it's like right in our faces all the time now.
It's really exciting. So, when you look at belt and internally geared hubs, so if you feel like just ruining your overall mood for a few hours and going on Reddit, you can read these deep dives of people debating chain versus chain and belt. And I think there's always been a question for us of where, sort of where we fit in as it pertains to something that may be more on the edge of enthusiast and into performance. And like it's, if you want a performance bicycle, you get a, you're going to buy something that will could need a fair amount of fine tuning. You have to keep it tuned up. You have to keep it super clean, but that's like what you're buying into. And that's the experience that you're looking for to get out of that bike. And that totally makes sense for us, within the perspective of low maintenance. And again, like I've said it, this ride, rinse and repeat concept, like, for us, when we set out to look at something that maybe was a little bit more nimble, it's finding the right place for it. And gravel for us was perfect because you're not necessarily dealing with high speed performance. There's an efficiency game, but like, I mean, efficiency in gravel is just, it's all over the place in terms of like terrain and weather and all that. So, for us, it was really exciting to build something like this that was capable for doing varied gravel rides. And then we are the only drop bar belt drive internally geared gravel bike.
See, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Because when you think about like you said, the kind of conditions like the water, the mud, like let's just talk about how that can be debilitating in a race when you get big buildup. But would that be kind of the same on the chain, on the belt?
No, I mean, it's different. So there is a self-cleaning aspect to the belt as it rolls on and off of the sprockets.
Flies off?
Yeah. There have been times where a water bottle has been useful in very dirty conditions and squirting it as you ride and giving that belt a little bit of a cleaning if there's a little bit of grit. But no, in terms of like holding up for that and then being able to, I mean, I think we really find like a lot of success with people who have time and interest in riding, but they don't necessarily have the time or interest in breaking down their bike and giving it like the full 2 hour toothbrushing every time that they ride, or like, I think there's a big benefit in like, and there's a big benefit again, like if you have a performance oriented bicycle, I believe, I'm not going to say I'm not a racer. I can't speak for any racers, but I do think that there are aspects when you buy something like that you want, you like to do the cleaning portion of it because you're taking care of your machine. And there's, I think, a cleanliness to that process that also comes back to how you train and live, and awesome. But if you're someone who's like, I only have 2 hours and I want to get out, and then I might go ride with my family, and then I might go do like a fitness ride as well, just on bike paths. I mean, you've got a bike that's going to work for all of that in like a really easy, accessible way. And I think that for us is what's really like most exciting with our approach to it.
I think also for the busy person,
Mm-hmm.
that does like, like if you look at the kind of people who are getting into like events, let's just say events, it doesn't have to be a race because there's so many of them out there and we only have enough time. And of course we come back and, we have to do certain maintenance and cleaning of our bikes, like my bike right now. And we don't want to like always have to be dealing with the chain, the chain rust, the chain dirt, like cleaning off all the pulley wheels and the derailleur and cassette and I'm, it just seems more appealing for someone who has less time to put in to taking care of your high performance, bike.
I think too. Yeah. And I think that like, there's a small part of the cycling population that loves the maintenance side of it. And it's interesting.
Oh yeah. When you have time, I love, booking in 4 hours a year.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the other thing is like, but there's also a lot of people who are enthusiast riders who don't know how to work on their bikes at all. And, and I think too, like, even when we move out of the adventure world, which there's an aspect of specialty to it, but our approach is all about, accessibility. Like just get on and have fun, and let's, we're not necessarily, we're not going to get into like the details of, we're not talking grams about, in terms of like
Yeah,
our
yeah,
bikes. Like, we're talking about, can you get people on and riding and having a good time and being able to sort of engage with
yeah.
their riding environment, whatever it is. But then certainly even when you move out of the world, and you get down to like the everyday bicycles, like the Classic or like our Coast, our beach cruiser. I mean, those are people who I think they really want to get on bikes, but I think they find even the concept of maintenance on a bicycle absolutely overwhelming. And there's a lot of people who have
Yeah.
bought a lot of bikes in their lives, and they're sort of soured on it, and they think that, oh, I have to get this bike tuned up every year or else it isn't going to work. Well, our intention with our bicycles, not to say that they don't need maintenance, because anything that moves is going to need maintenance at some point, but to say that if you take care of your bike and you keep it clean and you keep air in the tires, I mean, our approach to these bikes is you really don't have to touch them. If you're just doing like, light oversight to them when you ride them. And I think that for us is really exciting as a premise for the enthusiast is going to fall in love with the researching and digging into, different bikes and their specs and the, angles and all that. But like for other people, again, that can be intimidating. And we want people just to feel like they can buy a bike and keep air in the tires and then enjoy it when they want to ride it.
Right. So talk about your shop. Like, is it somewhere that somebody can walk into, or is it completely online? Like,
we are online. There is something exciting that's happening next weekend in the San Francisco Bay Area. So we are online, and you can actually set up appointments to come by and check out bikes if you're in the New York area. We've never wanted that to be an impediment for people to buy anywhere, and that's why we have a great return policy. That's why we have great customer service. We want to answer people's questions and get them their bicycles. But I mean, for us, if you buy a bike on any business day, that bike is going to ship within 24 hours and show up, and be on its way to you. Yeah. So we're really proud of that aspect of it. That said, again, if you're in New York, you can come by and set up a test ride in our showroom to check out some of our bikes. But then this upcoming weekend in Mill Valley, we're partnered with a company called Extracycle, which does really cool cargo bikes. And right there in the Mount Tam Junction, they have a store. It's right by San Francisco Run Club as well, if anybody's familiar with that. But we're going to be able to, we're going to keep our adventure bikes there. So we're calling it the Adventure Center at Extracycle, the Priority Adventure Center. And next weekend, we're going to have an opening event for that. So we're going to have actually a full size run of all of our adventure bicycles for people to come and check out on Saturday and Sunday. And then Saturday night, our friend Ryan Van Duzer, who I talked about with this bike, he actually wrote a book on bike packing, his origin story of bike packing.
Okay.
And it's about his ride after being in the Peace Corps from Honduras to Boulder, and just learning about riding and community and the world, and really finding a love for bike packing. And being in these different communities. But he wrote a book about it, and so he's going to read some parts of the book and do some storytelling.
Cool.
And so we're doing that. Yeah, so that's really exciting. So that's also just going to give people in a part of the country that are really interested in these types of bicycles opportunity to check them out in person in the Bay Area, which is really exciting.
So you're just partnering with somebody else. You don't have like your own store there. You just have
we're not. Yeah, we're not going to have any physical store, but we'll have our electric models and we'll have our adventure models there for people to check out. Also, too, if they're in the area and people wanted to have the bike delivered there and assembled, they'd be able to pick it up assembled there, which is very cool. Like to be able just to have a little bit more of a footprint for people to kind of kick the tires and check the bikes out.
Right. So how do you get a bike out in 24 hours? Like, I know that you were saying, you want to make sure that the what do you put? The supply chain, low overhead, like getting bikes out. Like, what if you don't have a size for someone?
We, for the most part, do as best a job as anyone can. If anybody has ever been in charge of inventory and purchasing, like they're probably just sweating bullets at the concept of it.
Yeah.
We try and forecast as best we can. But for the most part, we have all of our models in stock. Sometimes there might be a little bit of a lag with one, but we're really good about messaging. Like if you order now, you'll get this on May 15th or whatever it might be, or we'll ship on May 15th. Excuse me. So we're highly communicative about that, but we've done our best to have all of our bicycles in stock. And so like, especially if you're looking at the mass bicycles, like the recreational stuff, like the Classic Plus or like the Coast or, our Continuum Commuter, like these core models that we have that are really unique and differentiated. We have those, and our warehouse is in Central PA. We have an awesome team of people in Central PA. So the orders come in, and if the bikes haven't been picked up that day, they're going to be tagged and put out and ready to be picked up, which is just really exciting. I mean, I think we try and do as best a job. And when you look at any retail business, even for us, is like still not a large business, not a small business, but not a large one.
Mm-hmm.
Our ability to get bike orders out to people is really important. Our ability to be really responsive if people have questions, that's something that we're really proud of. So we just think it's important that if somebody is going to go through the research process and decide to, spend their hard-earned dollars with us, we want to get them their product. And even though we're not out there with them, they're not coming in and picking it up from us necessarily, we still want them to feel that level of comfort and confidence in the relationship.
So do you make your bike frames in the US, or are they?
No, we do all of our fulfillment we do all of our fulfillment out of the States here. We actually design everything in New
Oh,
York.
okay.
We design everything in New York. We do all of our R&D here in New York. So we have a bunch of just Frankenstein bicycles around. And then we ship out of Pennsylvania, and we actually do small batch customization in Pennsylvania. So these two
Okay.
bicycles,
Yeah.
that's a Dunkin' Donuts bike that we did for Dunkin'. This was the first bike that we actually designed, painted, and assembled here in the States. We did a short run of those, but that was done in PA, where we actually have a small batch customization facility, which is exciting. So we work with a variety of hotels, resorts, and brand partners that if they need a special one-off, or maybe not one-off, that's kind of challenging to do, but if they need a small run, we can. And we're actually doing a really interesting for National Bike Month next month. There is a brand called Hudson Whiskey. They make a whiskey amongst other things. We were just up at the distillery a couple hours from here yesterday shooting photos, but we're doing a short run of custom painted bicycles that we'll be selling and taking a portion of the proceeds from those bicycles and donating it to Transportation Alternatives, which is a really great nonprofit
Cool.
here. Yeah, really great advocacy and just helping kind of people work in less congestion, less cars, and more alternative modes of transportation. So, we're excited to be a part of that, and we're able to use the resources that we have to execute on that. And I think in ways that other bicycle brands can't necessarily do.
Yeah, that being said, you did mention e-bikes, which everybody has an e-bike these days. Every
Don't
brand
ask
has
me
an
any. Don't
e-bike.
ask me any hard questions about e-bikes. But
I
yes,
won't. Yes, we have some.
yeah, yes. No, e-bikes. Yeah, no, e-bikes are great. We just launched so our Coast is by volume. That's our beach cruiser, is our most popular model. We electrified the Coast. So we launched the e-Coast a
You
couple months
electrified
ago.
it.
Yeah. And so yeah, we have our e-Coast that we launched recently, which is really exciting and it's very popular.
Yeah.
And then we have a kind of an everyday kind of commuter mid-step accessible bike called our Current, which is really exciting. But yeah, electric is really just it offers an exciting
Yeah, for
accessibility point
everybody.
for people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love seeing that. I know my dad, he's 80 and he's looking at one. I'm like, it's
Yeah.
perfect because, I mean, if you're going to start biking at 80, especially with the hills around here, you're gonna want something like that. But can you, Connor, can you give an idea? Say the Dunkin' Donuts, like that's your specific. What price point do you have for your bikes? Like
Yeah.
what is
So
your price
yeah,
point range?
we start at 599 for our recreational. So
Oh,
our
wow.
3 speed, our 3 speed coast, and then, or sorry, our
Like the
three
one
speed.
behind you? Is
Yeah.
that the,
Yeah.
yeah,
That. Yeah.
that's a nice
599.
bike.
It is. It's great. It's belt drive, puncture resistant tires, aluminum
Mm.
frame, stainless steel spokes. So
Mm.
alloy wheels. So our goal is we're never going to have a cheap bike. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
that's just it's not possible because the cheap stuff is
yeah,
cheap.
exactly.
And yeah, and so for us, like our goal has always been that, like with especially our recreational bicycles, it's like we want the bicycles to sort of outlast your we want you to be in a position where you want to buy other bikes before you feel like you need to replace the one that you purchased from us.
Right.
um, and whether that's because you started riding recreationally and now you're moving towards being a
Mm-hmm.
commuter, or you like, what, I want to do fitness,
Yeah.
and I want to ride for fitness, whatever that is. But we really want our bikes to hold up. And then, excuse me, when you get up into the commuter class, around $1,300 for our Continuum, which is a workhorse commuter. It has
Right.
a four season rear hub. It has hub powered lights on the bike, hydraulic disc brakes, paint match
Yeah.
fenders. That's a bike. It's called our Continuum, and that's a bike that for that, it's an out of the box commuter. So I think
Mm-hmm.
what's exciting about that is like, get the bike and then you're like, oh, okay, now I got to figure out how to get lights and like what fenders fit my bike, and then I got to put it on. It's like with this bike, it's like, you take it out and like you're ready to go, which is
Oh, so
exciting.
what do? You just turn the handlebars and then you put it into the box and you just send it.
Yeah, all of our bicycles are 95% assembled. So it means that
Mm.
they're fully assembled and then they are just disassembled to the point where we can pack them up and ship them.
Right.
So, typically like for our Classic Plus, you're going to put the handlebars in and adjust them. You'll put the seat in, you'll put the pedals on in the front tire. We used to say that it it took you about as long to drink a beer as it does to assemble your bike.
I
Um,
love it.
that somewhat can hold up. I think as we've grown in size, we've said it takes you longer to unpack the bike than it does to build it.
Drink a beer.
So as far as like, taking all the packaging off so that it's packed up safely to get to you. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we say it takes you longer to take the packaging off than it does to finish the assembly. And we ship the bike with all real tools. So
Oh.
yeah, so it's like you're gonna get like a real 15 mil wrench, so that you're not like working with some little stamp thing that
Oh,
gives you
that's nice.
arthritis. Yeah, and then we have all of our videos online. We shoot all of our assembly videos and maintenance, any like upkeep or like tips and trick stuff. We shoot and have it online, which is we try and have as much out there for people as possible.
So I put on bike maintenance clinics, and I have a question about taking the back wheel off because you have the belt. How easy is it to put the
Yeah,
back wheel on and off?
they're easy. Like it's it's one of those things where I'd say it's the same as like when you learn how to fix a flat on a chain bike.
Mm.
The first time you do it,
Yeah, so
it
you
takes you a
just
second to get the rhythm. Yeah.
so
You
you just
just
slide in the chain
yeah.
around the hub and then you put it back. So is there a quick release or is there a bolt? Is it
No, we do bolts. Yeah, we have
you do
bolts on
bolts?
our
Okay.
bikes.
Yeah.
Well, and with internally geared hubs too. But yeah,
Yeah, I guess you
you just loosen the wheel nuts, slide it forward, and you can
yeah.
pop it out. And then
Oh,
if you
okay.
yeah, and if you need to, there's actually two chainring bolts here, but those can come off if you need to replace the belt. You just open up the frame to put the new belt on.
How long does a
Um,
belt last?
Research shows 2 to 3 times longer than a traditional chain.
And what is
And
that? Because a
so,
traditional chain is like, where they say 2,000 kilometers.
yeah, I mean, look, the with our recreational belts, we have to replace those very infrequently. I mean, typically like a belt for a recreational rider or something like this, they'll probably never replace the belt
Right.
on their bicycle whatsoever. If you looked at a daily commuter, I mean, you're talking about,
Yeah,
you
like
know,
5K,
10. Oh no,
10 minutes.
I'm thinking like, you know, easily 5,000 miles, plus like 10,000, like we have
Oh,
people who
yeah.
have who have commuter bikes that just continue to run, the belt, which is great.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because wow, okay, so you do have a physical place people can come in and check you out. Where else can they find you?
Um, the good thing with
YouTube?
us, good or bad, is you can reach us a year round. So you can text us, you can WhatsApp us. You're obviously going to find us on YouTube. We have a lot of content that we put up there, out in San Francisco, at this adventure center. We're doing a couple events that we have planned. So we'll do our San Francisco Adventure Center next weekend, and then the first weekend in May 5th, or May 6th and 7th, we're actually going to be in Seattle, with the Cascade Club up there. And we're going to do another speaking event and storytelling event with Doozer, opportunity for people to come check out our bikes. And then also there is a Bikes and Brews event. It's a 38-mile ride that we're doing in Seattle, 3 breweries.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah, so
Oh,
we'll be out in
nice.
We'll be out in Seattle at the beginning
Mm.
of May. So those are kind of two upcoming events that we've got.
Oh, super excited because I think this episode will be out in May.
Hmm.
And
Well,
so
after
just in time. And what about the summer? You
yeah,
guys have any events in the summer?
yes. As I look over at our calendar off to my right, we actually yeah, in mid-May, we're doing an event with Dogfish Head Brewery. So we're going to do a Dogfish Head weekend where people can ride. They're launching a fleet of e-bikes for guests. So we're going to do an e-bike ride to the brewery and to
That's the way to
downtown
go to a
Rehoboth.
brewery. So you really don't have to put much effort in between after you've had
Yeah,
a drink or two.
yeah.
You just have to stay
And then
upright.
just bring a second lock so that you can lock your bike up and not have to worry about getting home if you aren't going to do that. And then we're going to be out at the GoPro Games in Vail in mid-June,
Oh,
in
cool.
partnership with Gates. Yeah, so we'll have a booth set up there. We're trying to figure out exactly what we're going to do. I want to try and do like a little Zwift setup when we'll put like the 600X on rollers, and we can do competitions to see how far people can
Uh,
climb in a minute.
yeah,
You
roller
could win a bike. I think that'd
races.
be fun.
That would
Yeah.
be good. Do
So
like you could do like the competitions, right? You get like everybody and then you do four, then you go down to the last one-on-one and yeah, those are fun.
yeah, so I think that'll be exciting, especially for us to do it in the context of hill climbing, which would be a little bit different than gold sprints. And then
Oh,
I think
geez.
um, we're hoping to, we'll be out at Ragbri as well. It's the 50th anniversary
Oh,
of Ragbri. Yeah, so
I've
I
heard
think we're
about
gonna
that
have some team
race.
members. Yeah, I think we're gonna have some team members doing that, which is a week long across Iowa. And we're
Yeah.
just trying to work out the schedule of it. But we'll do that in partnership with Ryan Van Duzer, which will be exciting. So there's a few things. We also, as I look, we're also going to be in the Jersey Shore. You think I'd know these dates? In July,
Well,
it's really cool. We do a lot of events with Jetty, which anybody on the East Coast would have heard of Jetty before. But it's a really cool apparel company. They're
okay.
yeah, and so they do surf and just like water life apparel for
Oh,
men, women, and kids. It's
do you have, I've heard of this,
great
and
stuff, and they're based out of
yeah, so I've heard of these bikes that you could put your surfboard on. Like,
yeah.
okay, do you have like, is that like additional, like an add-on accessory?
Yes. Yeah. So you like with our e-coast, you definitely can do it with our coast. You can do it. You really can kind of do it with any bike. but it's the bigger the bike, the bigger the board, obviously, the more challenging it is. But yeah, you can get these really great racks for the side. And some of them are integrated with like a rear rack and based off of the seat. But yeah, you can put your surfboard on, which is really great for communities where obviously you have to like park and either walk or to just get down to the beach, or a lot of those water communities in the summer times are just absolutely packed. You're not going to find a parking space anyway. But Jetty has an all women's surf competition, which is really cool. So we're going to do a custom bike for that alongside of that. Yeah. So that's going to be in July. And we've done a partnership bike with them the last couple of years. So they do a little apparel capsule and we'll do some custom bikes for them. So that's really exciting.
That is super cool. So you can literally create a bike, design it, build it all within like where you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really good because you don't have to worry about, because I know I have friends, a couple friends who have their own bike brand, right? They do design them, but they also come from Taiwan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you have to wait for them to come over. So it's kind of cool that you can actually manufacture your own bikes.
Well, yeah, for short runs, we'll do it. We can do it here. And it's exciting because there's different partners who, if it's like a nonprofit, we're actually doing something right now for a program called You Are Not Alone Murals. So next month is, it's obviously National Bike Month, which a lot of people know, but it is also Mental Health Awareness Month. And so we are combining those two things with our friends from You Are Not Alone Murals Project. And there's a program we're doing called Priority Delivers. And You Are Not Alone Murals is a mural project based out of here in New York, but has legs all over the world. But it's a very simple message, which is you are not alone. So there are these murals that say you are not alone within this renowned artist's renderings. And the idea is just so that people can see and feel that message. And so next month, we have 6 renowned artists who've painted custom bicycles. So these are like, think of these things as like sculptures. And what we're going to do is we're going to have cards that say you are not alone. And we'll have different members of our team and You Are Not Alone Murals and friends who will go and take these bikes out and hand out these postcards to people with this simple message of you are not alone. It's meant to raise awareness, but also just like a very simple way to be in contact with people. And then we're going to auction off the bicycles and donate all the money at the end. So someone could, someone could buy a raffle ticket to win really a rolling piece of art, which is really exciting. And so, those are things that we're able to support through what we do here, which is really exciting.
That's amazing. So with that, so I assume you're on Instagram as well and Facebook and YouTube. So people can find you on all the major platforms. So like Connor said, they are accessible for questions at any time. If you want to go and check out on their website, looks pretty exciting there. And to have a belt driven bike, I think it must have been magazines that I saw it. I was like, wow, that's super cool. So with that, I just really want to thank you so much for sharing and actually bringing out your bike there. I think the internal hub is really cool. And if it would be possible, maybe who can explain more of that? Like if I were to do another episode for our listeners, would you be interested in learning more about internal hub mechanics? Because I would. And I'm always like curious. And that's why the reason why having a podcast, I can go and like, let's get that person on there doing a little like how-to and tutorial and explanation. So would that be possible?
Yeah, absolutely. We have Eddie from our team who runs product development is someone who would be great. And he can take you through the different systems.
Awesome.
And if you want the technical deep dive, he's our guy. And if you hit us up on any of these platforms, so if you find us on social, we're at Ride Priority. We're obviously prioritybicycles.com. If you get our phone number off of our site, you can also text us, but any technical questions also can find their way back to Eddie or any of our team. If anyone has, if they're doing their research and not sure which direction to go, but he would be someone who I'd love to get you connected with, and he can take you through all of the different mechanisms and their positives and considerations to have in
Oh
terms
my
of folding
God.
them into your quiver.
Yeah, Connor, if we can make that happen, I would love it. And I know our audience, I'm sure there's somebody out there who's got more questions and would really like to see. Like I said, it's a visual thing and, just to ask those questions. So let's set that up. And I just want to thank you so much. And thanks everybody for listening. Please share this if you're in the Jersey. You said Jersey Shore, right?
Yeah, we'll be down in Jersey Shore, and we're here right in Lower Manhattan.
Oh, Lower Manhattan. Go and check them out. Say, I heard you on the podcast. I want to check out one of your belt-driven bikes. So with thanks so much, Connor. Thanks everybody. And don't forget to, of course, put your notifications on the YouTube channel so you don't miss the second series episode we're going to be doing. Who knows when that's going to happen, but you don't want to miss an episode. And of course, don't forget to ride your bike no matter where you are. Thanks a lot, everybody. Take care. Hey, everyone. What did you think about Connor and Priority Bikes? I am super, super intrigued about the whole belt-driven hub and gearing system. Don't you agree? Because after we signed off, we were talking about having their mechanic or their R&D guy come on and do a real deep dive on how it all works. Now, I don't know about you. I would love to hear your feedback and what you think about that. And are you curious as me, in how it all works? So please put your comments below in the YouTube channel about your questions, because Connor did ask if we could provide some questions about their belt-driven gearing system. So if you're as curious as I am, put your comments below and let's create a Q&A for his R&D guy when they come back for another episode, talking and really showing us what it looks like on the inside and how it all works. So thank you so much, everybody. Make sure you put those notifications on and so you don't miss another episode. And also, we would just absolutely love to hear and get some reviews from you. So take care, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you so much for spending this time with me on the Secrets from the Saddle podcast, learning more about sighting people, places, and things that make cycling such an exciting sport. I am so glad you stopped by today. Please leave me a review if you feel so moved to do so. I would love to hear your feedback. And if you could take 1 second to share this episode with someone you think would enjoy it, I would be forever grateful. Also, if you could please leave me a review if you feel so moved by going to iTunes and leaving me an honest thought and an honest comment, telling me what you think, and most importantly, tell me what you'd like to hear more of. It would really help me to bring more great, inspiring cycling stories to you. Until then, have an amazing day. Make sure you ride your bike. And don't forget to visit my YouTube channel if you'd like to see the full version of this podcast live.